Welcome to the Mind Spark. Bringing you the latest news from around the world tonight, we're witnessing a seismic shift in global trade, and it's coming from Canada. Ottawa has just unveiled a $214 billion Pan-Asian trade agreement, forged entirely without the United States. This isn't just a trade pact, it's a declaration of economic independence. Canada is charting its own course, leaving a stunned America to watch from the sidelines. The new Pacific Gateway Accord links Canada with a dozen fast-growing Asian economies, creating a trade bloc to rival any in the world. For decades, the U.S. was the center of North American trade. That assumption is now shattered. Prime Minister Trudeau's message: Canada will no longer wait for American leadership that may never come. Years of American protectionism and America First rhetoric have pushed Canada to build bridges, not walls. The scale of this deal is breathtaking, promising to reshape supply chains and alter the economic balance of power. For American businesses and workers, the questions are urgent. How did this happen? What does it mean for American jobs? The White House was caught off guard, and outrage quickly followed. The U.S., once the architect of the global economic order, now finds itself on the outside looking in. Tonight, we break down how we got here, what this deal means, and where this fractured relationship goes next. To grasp today's news, we must look back at the long, intertwined history of U.S.-Canada relations. For over a century, our nations have shared more than a border. We've shared prosperity and trust. NAFTA, signed in 1994, created one of the world's largest free trade zones, binding the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Under NAFTA, trade between the U.S. and Canada exploded, fueling industries and filling stores on both sides. But the last decade brought a dramatic shift. Rising U.S. protectionism and the America First agenda put old trade deals in the crosshairs. The bruising renegotiation of NAFTA into USMCA, with tariffs and heated rhetoric, eroded trust. For Canada, this was a wake-up call. Relying on a single, unpredictable partner was too risky. The seeds of the Pacific Gateway Accord were sown in the soil of American protectionism. Canada realized it needed its own plan, its own partners, and a new path forward. Economic sovereignty required diversification. The Pacific Gateway Accord is the result. What is the Pacific Gateway Accord? It's one of the most ambitious trade agreements ever signed. The $214 billion figure represents the projected increase in annual trade between Canada and 12 major Asian economies. This deal goes far beyond cutting tariffs. It sets new standards for digital trade, intellectual property, and environmental protection. For decades, over 75% of Canada's exports went to the U.S., a vulnerability now being addressed. The accord gives Canadian businesses preferential access to a market of over 1 billion consumers. Canadian products will reach Seoul, Singapore, Jakarta, and beyond, while attracting new investment into Canada. By positioning itself as a stable gateway between Asia and North America, Canada aims to become a hub for international business. Investor protections and dispute settlement provisions make Canada more attractive for foreign capital. This is about transforming Canada into a global crossroads for commerce and innovation. Trudeau calls it a new chapter for Canada, built on progressive values and strong labor and environmental protections. The contrast with the U.S. approach is stark partnership and mutual respect, not confrontation. By signing this pact, Canada is redrawing the map of global trade. It's a bold play with global consequences. Washington's reaction was swift and furious. President Trump condemned the deal, accusing Canada of betrayal and threatening new tariffs. The administration and Republican leaders were blindsided. They never imagined Canada could orchestrate such a deal alone. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer now faces tough questions about missing the signs. Democrats call it a failure of leadership, proof that America First has led to American isolation. For ordinary Americans, especially in border states, the news raises fears of economic disruption and a loss of trust. The U.S. now finds itself outside both the EU and this new Pan-Asian network. The very protectionism meant to make America strong now risks leaving it on the sidelines. The world is moving on, and for the first time, it might be moving on without us. This is a sobering reality check for U.S. leadership. Canada's new trade deal will have deep economic consequences on both sides of the border. The Pacific Gateway Accord could add $78 billion to Canada's GDP annually and create over 250,000 new jobs. Sectors like agriculture, tech, and resources are set for a boom. Canadian farmers and manufacturers now have tariff-free access to Asian markets, outcompeting their American counterparts. For the US, the picture is troubling. American businesses face new disadvantages. Some may move operations to Canada to access the new trade network. The US Chamber of Commerce warns of billions in losses and thousands of jobs at risk. Border states, deeply integrated with Canada, could see disrupted supply chains and higher costs. A major trade dispute could put nearly 2 million US jobs in jeopardy. The US risks losing its position as the center of the North American economy. Canada is now a more attractive base for global companies. This shift could divert billions in investment away from the US. The Pacific Gateway Accord sent shockwaves worldwide. In Europe, leaders see Canada's move as both brave and logical, a model for middle powers to assert their interests. In Asia, the reaction is overwhelmingly positive. The deal offers access to North America through a stable partner. It's also a counterbalance to China's dominance, creating a network of like-minded countries. China, though not part of the deal, sees it as a sign of waning US influence and a chance to strengthen ties with Canada. The global trading system is reconfiguring itself without American participation. The unspoken realization, the world no longer revolves around Washington's decisions. The US withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership created a vacuum. Canada just filled it. This is a humbling lesson for a superpower used to writing the rules. The world is not waiting for America to lead. New leaders and new alliances are emerging. To understand the impact, we turn to the experts. Dr. Janice Stein calls the Pacific Gateway Accord the most significant Canadian foreign policy act in a generation. Not anti-American, but pro-Canadian. For decades, Canada's strategy was reactive. Now, it's proactive, taking control of its economic destiny. Dr. Edward Alden says the Trump administration's tariffs and rhetoric pushed Canada to seek new partners. When you treat your closest friend as an adversary, you can't be surprised when they look elsewhere, he notes. Economists predict a fundamental reorientation of North American supply chains. For US companies reliant on Asian markets and Canadian suppliers, moving production to Canada may become irresistible. The competitive disadvantage for US firms will be substantial and long-lasting. Christopher Sand says the special relationship is over, replaced by a more pragmatic, transactional one. Canada has learned to be assertive and independent. The US will have to work harder to earn Canada's cooperation. This is a fundamental power shift Washington hasn't yet accepted. The old assumption of automatic alignment is gone. The US-Canada relationship has changed forever. Beyond politics, this trade realignment will impact ordinary lives. In Canada, there's cautious optimism. Factory workers and tech developers see new opportunities and job security. For Americans, especially farmers and small business owners near the border, the outlook is grim. Competition just got tougher. The America First policy meant to protect may end up hurting those it aimed to help. Border communities, long united by daily life and commerce, now face new tensions and uncertainty. The human connection across the border is fragile. For young Americans, the world is becoming more closed off, while Canadians are encouraged to look outward. This shift could stifle innovation and limit opportunities. The North American dream of shared prosperity is being challenged. The future for a young person in Toronto now looks very different from one in Detroit. The US and Canada now stand at a crossroads. One path is escalating conflict, tariffs, trade wars, and permanent damage to a centuries-old relationship. The other is reflection and adaptation, recognizing the world has changed, and that leadership must be earned, not demanded. The US must consider a diplomatic reset and re-engage with the global trading system. For Canada, the challenge is to manage new partnerships while maintaining stability with its most important neighbor. The goal was economic security, not a permanent rupture. Canada's prosperity still depends on a stable relationship with the US. The world of 2025 is not 1995. Power is diffuse, and nations won't wait for a single leader. Canada's bold move signals a new reality. Adaptability is key. Nations that build bridges and embrace collaboration will thrive. Those that cling to outdated dominance risk being left behind. The next move is up to Washington. The world is watching.